Hi there guys, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero Show with me, your host Simon Conboy. This episode will be my first round mock draft. Now with the draft tomorrow, I've done things a little differently. If you've seen the previous mocks, then you'll have a rough idea how I'm doing this. So what I'm doing when I make each team's picks, I'm offering two separate picks. One is what I think they will do, the other being what I think they should do. They both add up essentially as separate drafts. So get a couple of different perspectives. I'll be keeping score on what I will do though, for the sake of the Friday episode when I go over how my mock did, which I'm sure this year will be badly. So as I say, first pick, that's what I think that will happen. That's my prediction. And then the should is what I think, if I were running the team, that's what I would do with that pick. So with the first overall pick in the draft, I have the Browns going shock horror with Myles Garrett, the defensive end from Texas A&M. Consensus pick, it seems all around. They might look at quarterbacks, but at the end of the day, Garrett's quite a rare talent. I'm not sure the tape necessarily quite adds up. I probably expect a bit more overall production from him, but you can see the raw athletic ability and talent that's there. That's why he's consensus pick. These kind of players don't come around too often. When you're being compared to Julius Peppers physically, that kind of says it all. Generational type talent that Peppers was. That's what this is. These kind of size and speed combinations at the defensive line, they're rare. So that's why he's going to go first overall. There's no quarterback that matches up to that value. I think they will and they should at this juncture. Whilst I think there are better players than Myles Garrett in terms of ability to play day one, none of them match up to the upside, especially considering how hard it is to find high-end pass rushers. So moving on to the second overall pick, I believe the Niners will absolutely milk that clock in the hope of a trade happening. However, I think they've been unfortunate. It's just a bad year to try and do so. As a result, I think they select Mitch Trubisky, the quarterback from North Carolina. A lot of people speculating. I think this is a tough pick because Fournette is, in my opinion, the top player in the draft in terms of when you look at the tape and the overall talent, but he's a running back. His position doesn't necessarily match up well to that particular need. Well, it's not really a need, even though there are rumours that San Fran are looking to trade their current starting running back in Carlos Hyde, who's a solid player, but apparently he may not fit the scheme. However, Trubisky ends up being the pick. They need to find a quarterback. I don't think they can rely on Kirk Cousins being available in any way, shape or form. Barring some bizarre trade with Washington, I think they end up just grabbing the quarterback now. I do expect Trubisky to be taken quite early, even if I don't necessarily think he's great value. I think they should, which is also tough actually thinking who they should take. I think they should take Marshon Lattimore. It's hard to find lockdown corners. I think he's got all the skills in the world to be one. He could be with the team a long time. I look at the safeties and I just think you can find a decent caliber of safety later on in this draft, whereas finding a corner this good, that's not going to happen. They've spent 2 first rounders on D linemen. Lattimore makes a lot of sense to me. With the third selection, I have the Bears selecting Solomon Thomas, the defensive end from Stanford. Now, this is one of the most infuriating players I've studied this year. I think his tape is very spotty. There's some atrocious stuff there. I mean, there are lazy plays, there are misread plays, taking plays off entirely. But you can see the physical skills are absurd. When he decides to make a play, it can be hard to stop him. I think he fits the John Fox mould, trying to build through the trenches. And I think they'll see the upside and think they can get the most out of him. I think, however, that the Bears should at this juncture take Reuben Foster. They've got a great history of middle linebackers there. I think Foster is one of the top 5 players in this draft. I think he'd give them a strong leader to lead that. Well, I think it's a talented unit, especially the front 7. Some good young talent there. That's what I think they should do. Give him a thumper, a real enforcer and leader for the future. With the 4th overall selection, what I think will and should happen match up here. Leonard Fournette, the running back from LSU. Incredible talent. If you watch his tape, it's just a man amongst boys. I think he'll be very effective in the NFL. One of the best pure runners I've seen in college. Runs violently, better catcher than people seem to be giving him credit for. I hear all this stuff like, Cook and McCaffrey helping the pass game. Now, I'm not saying he can catch like McCaffrey, but when Fournette was asked to catch, he can catch. I think he'll be more of a weapon in that regard than some people think. I think it makes a lot of sense. Can't trot out Chris Ivory and TJ Yeldon again. That was a disaster. Blake Bortles, I also think, is a disaster. But get him some help in Fournette. He'll have no excuse to turn the ball over so much next season. With the 5th pick, I think this is best case scenario for the Titans, actually, in terms of what I think will happen with Trubisky being taken. Marshon Lattimore fell into their lap, and they snap up the top corner in the draft. They've got big hole at that spot. Logan Ryan, ideally, you want to be playing in the slot like he was used in New England. I think Lattimore gives them a top tier number 1 cornerback in the future, and I think they'll be happy to have him. If he's not on the board, and like he isn't in my what should happen mock draft, I think they would look to go Malik Hooker, the safety from Ohio State. I have Adams ranked higher. However, in signing Jonathan Cyprien, I think they're fairly similar players. I think getting the more traditional free safety type player would help this defense more. The Jets with the 6th overall pick. I think it's entirely possible if Trubisky is still available, this pick is traded for. We see the Browns move up into this slot to select him. I think that would be ideal for the Jets. However, if they do stay here, I think they need to just take the top player on the board that's basically not a defensive lineman, because they're still fine there. And that player is Jamal Adams, the safety from LSU. I think that's what they will, and I think they should do. He'll be a great player for them. I don't know what it would mean for the future of Calvin Pryor, but he was not good last year. So, moving on to the 7th pick, we've got the LA Chargers. I think they are ecstatic in this situation. Jonathan Allen, one of my favourite players in the draft. I think he's great. Best D lineman to watch on the tape by, in my opinion, some distance. They're moving to a 4-3. I think he fits perfectly in terms of giving them an interior presence. Him, Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram, they could put a lot of heat on teams. I think they should and will select Jonathan Allen if this scenario falls into place. With the 8th selection, bit of a surprise here. I've got the Panthers selecting Derek Barnett, the defensive end from Tennessee. I think they need to get younger at the position. Of course, going in with Peppers and Charles Johnson, both older players, trading Coney Ely away. Definitely need to bring in some youth there. Barnett's, I think, the steadiest edge rusher in this draft. Shows pretty good technique, very reliable, consistent on tape in his effort. Maybe not got the highest upside, but his tape is probably better than Myles Garrett. So if you weigh it all up, I think that gets him drafted highly. I think the Panthers are very happy to have him. Fits what Ron Rivera likes to do in terms of building up the line of scrimmage. However, in this situation, I think they should take Dalvin Cook. I think he's a top talent at the running back spot. I think he'd fit great in their offense and what it does. Yeah, that's what I think they should do. The Bengals, I've got them selecting Reuben Foster from Bama. I think he just... This pick has just seemed like it's going to happen for a long time. I think they don't mind so much the stuff that's gone on behind the scenes with him. They look at the tape. This is one of the best talents in the draft. Lets them move perfect outside, where I think Foster will probably be a better coverage guy. They need to get a bit faster defensively. I think this helps. Foster's not available in what I think should happen. So if he's not, I think they should go with Hassan Reddick. Barnett would be perfect for them, but he's just been snapped up. And I think Reddick is an incredibly versatile talent. One of my absolute favourite players in the draft. Definitely will make my top 10 prospects. So he'd be a great fit. With 10th selection, this is where I think reality and what should happen match up. If you've got Tyrod Taylor and you're still evaluating him, I don't think there's a quarterback you can take and think, well, next year we'll be better off with them than Tyrod Taylor necessarily. I think he's been unfortunate with some of the weapons around him. Sammy Watkins is good when he's healthy, but he's missed a lot of time. I think bring in Mike Williams. You've got a really good pair of receivers then. He'll have a great set of weapons around him. You can evaluate him properly, and the passing game won't fall apart when Sammy Watkins is injured. Give them a nice complement, fairly speedy receiver in Watkins. You get the big power receiver in Mike Williams. Makes a lot of sense. I think this would be a great pick, and I think it is the pick they should make. With the 11th selection, first of the Saints 2, I have them selecting Taco Charlton, the outside back / defensive end from Michigan. I think in this scenario they should take Marlon Humphrey, the corner from Bama. His stock seems to have fallen quite heavily in the last couple of weeks. Initially he was sort of in most top 10s. Now I see him in the second half of a lot of mock drafts. I still think he goes reasonably high, as you'll see later. But I think Taco Charlton's one of them players, teams will see the upside and the physical skills. Not a big fan of him personally, but I could see it happening at this juncture. I just don't think he's great value at 11. The 12th overall pick, I've got the Browns selecting Malik Hooker. I think this is a good spot to be in for them because there will be one or two players, I think, of very high talent level that fall somewhat into this range, and they'll just be able to scoop one up. And I think in this case, that player is Malik Hooker. If he's not available, I think Christian McCaffrey would make a lot of sense for them. They need a receiver as well. They can use him all over the place. Got a great offensive line there. I think McCaffrey would be very, very productive in that system that Hugh Jackson runs. With the 13th pick, I think the Cardinals will take Hassan Reddick, the linebacker from Temple. His stock seems to have flown up. I'm with them, having watched more of his tape. Big fan of his. I think he'd be a great selection. They can use him just like they used to use Darrell Washington before he, dunced his way out of the league. Good blitzer, athletic. Just seems like a Bruce Arians type player. However, I think they should take OJ Howard in this scenario. I think this is a team that thinks it can win now. I think the best way to do that is to try and find a really good weapon. I'm not sure if any of the receivers there necessarily improve them too much. However, I think OJ Howard would. With the 14th pick, I believe the Eagles will take Christian McCaffrey, the running back from Stanford. It's just a case of rounding out the offense that's around Carson Wentz. They did a great job up improving the receiving group. I mean, that's a hint that they're going to go get a running back. They've not had a particularly good run game for the last few years. McCaffrey comes in, gives them all the versatility that they're after, and gives Wentz a new best friend in the backfield. However, at this juncture, I think they should probably take Garrett Conley. They look real bad at the corner spot, and I think he's a really good player. I don't think there's a chance of this happening with the allegations that were made against Conley, unless teams really have a reason to believe that nothing will come of this. I don't think he gets selected. Definitely not in the first. I don't think he'd be taken in the first 3. If you think back to what happened with Lyle Collins, this could cause him to go undrafted potentially. Who knows? I don't know enough about the situation, only of the accusation. With the 15th pick, the Colts, I've got them selecting Charles Harris, the defensive end / backer, pass rusher, we'll say, pass rusher from Missouri. I think it's a case of the pass rushers I think will be pushed up. I don't think he's necessarily the best value at this point, but pass rushers are at a premium. They've lost Robert Mathis. They've signed some reasonable guys, but this is someone they hope can develop into a top, 10 sack plus a year type guy. I think Obi Melifonwu would actually be a great selection for them. I think their safety spot is going to be a problem for them. I really think Melifonwu is a great player and good value at this. Well, maybe not great value at this point, but I think he'd really help them, and I like him as a player. So that's where I think they go. I think they go with Harris, but I think they should take Melifonwu. With the 16th pick, I've got the Ravens selecting Cam Robinson, the offensive tackle. I think he's going to play guard early in his career, most likely. I think the logic here, they lost Assembly, lost Ricky Wagner this year. He's a Bama player, seems to fit the mould. I think this is a pretty good range for him, so I think that's what Ozzie Newsome does. However, that's partly because there's no pass rushers on the board. I think if Barnett or Charles Harris are available at this point, the Ravens will snap them up. I think they should take Charles Harris in that draft. So With the 17th pick, we got the Redskins. Now, I think they will stop Marlon Humphrey's slide. As I say earlier, I think he's a really, really good player. I think he'd be incredibly dangerous alongside Josh Norman. Even if his ball skills may not be too great at this point, I think they can develop. Got to go up against a lot of good receivers in that division. I mean, Brandon Marshall, Sterling Shepard, and Odell Beckham's a good group. The Eagles have really improved with Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith being there alongside Jordan Matthews. And the Cowboys have Des Bryant. I think getting another receiver will certainly not hurt the Redskins. However, I think they should look at taking David Njoku. I think this is a team that could really benefit from having that second tight end. Jordan Reed's had injuries. This gives them another athletic weapon. I think they can play a lot of two tight end sets in that sort of West Coast type scheme and get great production. If you look at what the Patriots were doing all those years ago with Gronk and Hernandez, I think something like that, and then Njoku's a real freaky athlete. Having him and Jordan Reed will just be a nightmare for defences. Don't think it happens, but wouldn't it be great? That's what I think they should do. With the 18th pick, the Titans are ecstatic at this point. OJ Howard has fell to them. I think this is partly a function of teams not necessarily valuing the tight end spot as highly as other positions, like as I say, some of the edge rushers that are available. I think he'd be a perfect fit for them. Gives them a replacement for Delaney Walker in a couple of years, who's been great there. This is a team that can use the two tight end set as well as anybody. Start doing a bit more play action, really disguising the run and pass. I think he'd just be perfect for them. And if not, I think they should look at taking Corey Davis, the wide receiver from Western Michigan. I think he could step in and help right away. Might even be the best receiver that they'd have. I think he'd be a really good pickup for the Titans. I think Mariota would love to have him on the outside. Moving on to the 19th pick, and my beloved Bucks. This is where I have Dalvin Cook's slide ending. I'm sure a lot of Bucks fans would be happy about this. Not a huge fan of taking a running back in round one. I still think the Bucks have a lot of issues, but I think this is what they do. A lot of rumours about not necessarily impressing teams with some of his background, some of his off-field behaviour. I personally think that the Bucks in this situation should take Forrest Lamp. I think guard is a big question mark heading into next year. Look to protect Jameis Winston, pick up a running back later, help the offense all round with that one selection. It lets you make that transition with Valley Marpet to centre that sounds like it's going to happen a lot smoother. Sticking with the O-line theme, at 20, the Broncos in major need of revamping that line. I think they look to do so here, and they select Garrett Bowles, the offensive tackle from Utah. I personally have Ramchick rated above him. That's what I think they should do. But I've read various places. It seems like they may have Bowles rated higher. I expect it to be one of the two if they're both available. So I think it will be Bowles. With the 21st pick, I've got the Lions going with Obi Melifonwu, the safety from UConn. I think he'd be a very good. I think he's a great talent. I think he's one of those stocks risen up. I expect him thoroughly to go in the first round, and I think the Lions could do with another safety. I think he'd be a good pick. My previous mock, I had them selecting Alvin Kamara. I stand by that. I think that's absolutely what they should do. I think he's kind of the forgotten man of the running backs in the lead up to this draft, but I think he's great on tape. I don't think he's too far behind the sort of the big three and Joe Mixon in terms of talent. I think he'd be well worth a pick at this point for the Lions. With the 22nd pick, I believe the Dolphins will be the team that scoops up Forrest Lamp. Got a big hole at guard with Brandon Albert leaving for Jacksonville and Larry Tunsil taking his spot. I think Lamp slides in there, gives this team a really good young foundation for that offensive line. Played really well when the O-line was fully intact last year. I think this is something they see as a way of continuing a solid play, getting younger at the position. However, he's not available in my should. So in that case, I think they should take Jared Davis, the linebacker from Florida. I think he'd fit the defense well. Need desperately need a linebacker, need more athleticism there. I think he'd be a good fit. With the 23rd selection, the Giants, this is pretty much a situation like the Broncos. I think they go offensive line. I've got them taking Ryan Ramczyk. It could just as easily be Bowles. And I think, reverse situation around, I think they should take Bowles if Ramczyk's not available. So I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. Anyone who's watched the Giants last year, their tackle situation was not good. Eli wasn't great, but that certainly didn't help matters. Moving on to the 24th overall selection, we've got the Oakland Raiders selecting Kevin King, the cornerback from Washington. Again, another one of those guys, stock's gone a bit doolally. Definitely see this being a defensive player. I think looking for a corner is a solid move. They've got a decent-ish pass rush, Khalil Mack's pass rush on his own. Getting a long, rangy corner. Not going to be able to find a guy like this too much later, I wouldn't think. Teams seem to be moving towards this type of player. I think he's a good player. I think he'd fit in well in Oakland. I think they should and will take him. Moving on to the 25th pick, I've got the Texans selecting Deshaun Kaiser, the quarterback from Notre Dame. I believe they go with this pick because they see him as the most pro-ready quarterback. And having not signed anybody else, I don't think they're going to go into the season with Tom Savage. I mean, Kaiser is someone they look at and think, day one, he might be able to run the majority of our scheme. Which I would agree with. I think he looks to them outside of maybe Trubisky. They're the two that look most like an NFL quarterback on film in terms of what they're doing. So that's where I think they go. I think, though, they should go with Patrick Mahomes. I think he's got by far the highest upside of any of these players. I think they should just sign Jay Cutler, play him for the year, develop Mahomes. The upside is very high there. With the 26th pick, I've got the Seahawks selecting Alvin Kamara. I think they see the talent there. They don't care what other people think. I think this would be a great pick, by the way. And yeah, they look to get that beast mode type running game going again with Alvin Kamara. However, he's not available in my should mock. So I think they should, in that situation, go Tre'Davious White, the corner from LSU. Gives them another rock-solid player in that secondary. And maybe they trade Sherman. They've still got someone there. Not that he'd be an adequate replacement next season, at least. The 27th pick, got the Chiefs. I believe they select Patrick Mahomes. I think he's the sort of quarterback that Andy Reid could make very, very dangerous quite early on. Looking for a replacement for Alex Smith in the future, and this is a guy that they can sit for a couple of years behind him, really develop, and potentially have a high-end quarterback when Alex Smith does indeed move on. However, I think they should take John Ross. I just think that receiving group would be very, very dangerous. I think teams will adjust to the way they use Tyreek Hill, and I don't think Hill's as polished a receiver or even close to as John Ross. If you get those two on the same side with Kelsey and Macklin, I think this receiving game could be incredibly dangerous and versatile. I think it would be a great selection for them. I kind of hope it happens. The Cowboys at 28, I believe they will take Gareon Conley, assuming this stuff checks out. If not, I think they go with Jabril Peppers. Could do with, they need a defensive back bad. I think he'd be the top rated defensive back on the board at this point. Even if he might not be the most refined, but as an athlete, I think he's got very high upside and is really good value at this juncture. I think that's what they should do also. With the 29th pick, I think the Packers are very happy. They can get Zach Cunningham, the linebacker from Vanderbilt. I'm a big fan of his. I think he's very versatile. They could play him in the middle, possibly play him, use him as a blitzing backer. I think he'd be a great selection. I think they will and should take him at this point. With the 30th selection, the Steelers surprise everyone and go with Deshaun Watson, the quarterback from Clemson. The Roethlisberger stuff, I think I don't think it's necessarily him saying he's going to retire, but I think it might be coming fairly soon. He's taken a shoeing over the course of his career. Really started to struggle toward the end of last season. I think that could be a sign that his body is starting to struggle to get through 16 games without some form of nagging injury sneaking up and affecting his play. I think they see a guy they can develop behind him. They develop players so well in Pittsburgh. This would be great for the player. However, I think they should take Jordan Willis, the outside backer from Kansas State. I think when James Harrison, if he ever does retire, moves on, this would potentially be his replacement. He's a player who's really flown up boards, and I think he could be a very good pass rusher. 31st overall selection, I've got the Falcons selecting Dion Dawkins. I think I called him Dion Parker in a video earlier. My bad. The guard from Temple. Well, the tackle, but I've moved him to guard. I think guard is the one spot they could look to improve offensively, and I think he just represents good value for them at this point, and they look to do that, replacing Chris Chester. And with the 32nd pick, we've got the Saints. Incredibly happy at this juncture. Tre'Davious White is still on the board. Could go with any of these picks just before this, to be honest. Would make a lot of sense for the Cowboys also, actually. So I think they take him. Could do with a corner bad, so it makes perfect sense. However, he's not available in what should happen, and in that situation, I think they should take Buda Baker. I think he could play. Could probably play corner. I've heard a lot of analysts say he could play safety. Well, safety and nickelback. Maybe they use him that way. I don't like Kenny Vaccaro. Replace him with Buda Baker. I think that would be a great selection for them. So there we have it. Hope you followed exactly how it went down. I'll post the picks just below so you can sort of have a visual aid to help if the way I was explaining it wasn't the easiest to follow. Thank you very much for checking out the video. Let me know what you guys think. It's a bit of a tough one to mock tomorrow. Normally the top 10 seems fairly mapped out, but this year incredibly unpredictable. I'm sure I'll have a strop once the first trade happens tomorrow and this all falls apart. Although it could fall apart as early as round 2, as the second pick. The one I'm confident in is Myles Garrett. I think that's definitely happening. But yeah, there'll be a bunch of stuff tomorrow in the lead up to the draft. Hopefully we'll be having a live stream up, so definitely check that out. Look to get the second and third rounds up as soon as possible. Finish the AFC West tomorrow. So check them out. As always, if you enjoyed this, like, share, subscribe, check out some more of the videos. And as always, feel free to comment below. Facebook, Cover Zero. Find me on Twitter at Simon Conboy. I'll do my best to respond to each and every one of you. It's been a pleasure as always. Thanks for your time, and go Bucks.